Well, we got another OD interview, and it's a special one. Introducing Everything Everything, the Manchester-based art rock quartet that has consistently released some of the most exciting alternative music over the last 15 years. Combining complex lyricism and dynamic, detailed arrangements, the band have released 7 albums, their most recent being Mountainhead in March this year. I got to chat and casually fanboy with frontman Jonathan Higgs about the group's influences, creative process, and plans for their first ever performance in India at this year's Bandland in November. Take a look. Congratulations on Mountainhead. It's your 7th album
It is.
in under 15 years. I mean, the consistency is clear. Like, there's an album every 2 or 3 years. What is your game plan when it comes to an album? Are you already writing the next one while you're finishing up the current one?
I would say usually yes. We got into the habit of writing the next one while we were touring the previous one, I guess. And that's been the case for the last 3 or 4 albums. But this time we haven't written anything since Mountainhead. So this is a bit unusual now.
Does that indicate, like, I don't know, are you guys planning on a break or like taking some time off? Clearly, because of these many albums, it doesn't look like you've taken a break at any point.
Not really. I don't think it's an official break, but we made Mountainhead very quickly after we made Raw Data Feel, and we made Raw Data Feel quite quickly as well. So we just felt like we wanted to take a bit more time over the next thing and not just bash it out in 2025, like every year is a bit much. So we're just taking a bit more time over it. And as it happens, we haven't written anything as of October the 1st, but I think it's probably going to start happening. Towards the end of the year, we might start writing a couple of things here and there. We're just trying to take the pressure off ourselves a bit.
So one of my favorite moments that I've seen on YouTube and all that is, I think you covered With Every Heartbeat, the Robin song.
Oh yeah.
It's just the two of you. In prep for this interview, I kind of went back to that, and it also reminded me at its very core, a lot of these songs are pretty much pop songs, but with this sheen of complex arrangements and this sort of maximalist idea. What is that process like? How do you approach songs for every album that comes up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's very important that the song is the top of the tree kind of thing. It's no good having complexity or some kind of interesting production if the song is no good. So you have to write a good song. It has to be good even if it was just a piano and a voice, it has to be good if it was just a guitar. Once you're happy and confident with that, and I like to call it bulletproof, then you can start trying to push every aspect of it, try and make it more interesting. Lyrically, you can experiment a bit more as long as you don't lose the core of it, basically. And I think that's the difference between going too far is a fine line. So you've got to make sure that it's always a good emotional impact at its heart.
Slip from the trees to the dirt to the minutes to the wilds to the car and the snow. Got dreams like a crawl to your shin like a maniacal swing.
You mentioned the song No Reptiles. It's one of the songs which has a very, very direct emotional release towards the end.
Yes.
And I feel like that's connecting on different levels, even though you did mention that the song came when you were, I think, out somewhere and you made a voice memo and you built on it from there.
You can start from anywhere. If it was just the start of that song, that wouldn't have any emotional connection. It would be like, what's he doing? Why is this? What's this digga stuff all about? But I think that the end of it's so emotional that it gives me the freedom to experiment more. That's a good example of experimentation versus emotional release.
I will gain an extra life when I get the high score.
Like I mentioned, the consistency over so many years, just from the first album, it almost set a clock to how frequently you guys release an album. There were bands that sort of came up with you at that time, around Man Alive and Arc, who kind of called it quits. So was there ever a moment in the middle of all that? Did you guys just felt, is it time? Are we done? Is this all this is?
The most difficult bit was the pandemic, obviously, but I think that everyone felt that. But that came just after, our third and our fourth records were much bigger than our first and seconds, and then the pandemic came and we couldn't really be a band for a few years, but we never felt like we had nothing left to give. So we would only stop, I think, if we felt like we weren't making good music anymore or we were bored or something like this, but we really enjoy it still. We weren't really very tied to the time we appeared in. We weren't really part of New Rave or anything like that, so we never died when that wave died either, which is good and bad. It means that you don't get the revival when it comes back either.
But has that never crossed your mind, like, has life not got in the way?
We've got 2 fathers in the band now, and that didn't stop us. I've always wanted to do this since I was about 13, and I still don't feel any differently, really. Once you're in a band for, your 20s and some of your 30s, or all my 30s, I feel like that's your career. Like, it would be a bit weird if one of us was like, you know what, I really want to be I don't know, it wouldn't come up. But I mean, I wouldn't stop anybody if they wanted to leave, but I don't want to leave, and I'm the singer, so I think I can probably stay in this band if I want to stay in this band. I hope. If all our fans suddenly stopped listening to us and didn't come to our gigs anymore, then yeah, I couldn't call this my job anymore, but I would probably still do it. I would just have to make money somewhere else. You know, it's not magical. People have to be interested in what we're doing for us to continue. Otherwise, you know, we had to do something else.
Drag my tongue across the sand, so happy just to crawl across the land. Soon I'll.
As the director of the music videos, where's your headspace generally when it comes to the visual representation of the band?
I think we're pretty influenced visually by Kraftwerk, by Devo, these bands that dress up. Yeah, I think there's something great about that. It makes you feel like you're in a club, but also it takes away individuality in quite a good way. It just makes you workers working for this pop music, you know. It doesn't cloud anything with fashion. It's just like, no, we are doing this thing, which I really like. But generally, it's often how much we can afford to put on the screen. I would love to have, you know, explosions and, you know, crazy stuff going on, but it's really, we try and make the best thing we can with as little as we can. We just try and find a core idea that's exciting that we don't feel someone's done yet.
I know this you're still fresh off of Mountainhead. I think it's only been a few months. Is the setlist for Bandland going to be like a career-spanning one, or are you going to stick to newer songs?
About a third of it will be new, and then the rest will be greatest hits, I reckon, considering what we've just been doing in America.
So we have a series in Original Dog called Spaced Out. Our subjects are being shot out into space for deep space exploration. Nothing digital works, and we don't have time for 5, but if you have 3 LPs that you would cherish and treasure and that you would play for the rest of time, what would those be?
Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon & Garfunkel.
I am just a poor boy, though my story is seldom told. I have squandered my resistance for a pocket full of mumbles, such are promises.
The White Album by the Beatles.
Mother Superior jumped the gun. Mother Superior jumped the gun.
The Donut in Granny's Greenhouse by Bonzo Dog Doodah Band.
After his second wife passed away, Percy Rawlinson seemed to spend more and more time with his Alsatian owl. His friends told him, "You should get up more, Percy. You'll wind up looking like a dog. Ha ha."
I know I'm overstepping, but I have to ask, where is that from?
Yeah, it's a 70s, 60s surrealist band, a bit like Monty Python, that my parents would put on when I was a kid a lot, and it was highly influential. Lots of weird things go on those records, and they're really funny as well.
You're sure these are the 3 that you'll be... This is to the end of time.
Oh, yeah.
You know. Oh, okay.
I'm happy.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you for joining me and
Thank you
taking
for
the
having
time.
me.